Welcome to the Pianist TV channel. In this following masterclass, Graham Fitch discusses various scale and arpeggio technique. The filming takes place at Steinway Hall, right in the heart of London. Before Graham begins his lesson, here's a quick glance around the Steinway showroom and its vast piano workshop. On this introduction, Graham plays the Allemande from Rameau's Suite in A minor on a Model D concert grand, the same instrument on which he gives his lesson.
Hello, I'm Graham Fitch, and I'm bringing you this video demonstration on scales and arpeggios from Steinway Hall in London, in the heart of the West End. This goes with my article on scales and arpeggios in Pianist magazine, issue number 74. I get quite a lot of people asking me specifically about arpeggios. They seem to find arpeggios harder to manage than scales, so I thought what I'd do is focus a little bit more on arpeggio playing, but include aspects of scale playing because the two do overlap. I'd like to start off with the whole body choreography, what I call, when we play the piano, we don't play the piano just with our fingers, and I think a lot of us do tend to focus too much on what the fingers are doing. If I'm playing a 4-octave arpeggio, I'm going to need to use quite a lot of my keyboard. Now, in order to feel balanced and centered at the piano, I do need to make sure that I'm first of all sitting correctly with my feet firmly on the ground. Let me show you what I mean. This is a 4-octave arpeggio in A major. If you look closely, not at my fingers, you'll notice that I started over in this position, and as I came to the middle of the arpeggio, I was central to my body, on the stool. And then when I come to this position, I'm ever so slightly over here. Now, it's not just the feet. We've got to make sure that first of all, we're sitting on a firm enough stool. If I'm sitting on cushions, I've got no balance on the two bones that are in my backside called the ischial bones or the sitting bones. It's very important that we are able to move freely from the one bone to the other. So that's the first thing I'd like to say about arpeggio playing. The feet, the sitting bones, the stool, and the way that we balance on the stool. Now, the other really important thing about arpeggio playing, and this seems to be a very common error, is it's what I call the gliding arm. Now, let me just show you that arpeggio again, just in the right hand, and you'll see, if you look now, not at my fingers, look at my elbow, and you should see a smooth line. Do you see how that elbow led my hand? The elbow is slightly in advance. Now, I'm going to show you a bad arpeggio. Don't copy this at home. Those teachers among you will recognize that. The reason I'm doing that is because my thumb doesn't have enough mobility. So what we need to do in conjunction with this leading, gliding arm, we need to develop flexibility in our thumb joint. Now, there are several ways that you could do this. Let me now go to a scale, and I'm going to show you in the left hand, just so that you can see my thumb. So now I'd invite you to look at my thumb particularly, and I'm going to show you what I hope will be a good scale. Slowly, look at the thumb. You will have noticed there that the thumb, at the moment my second finger played, my thumb took off. When I say take off, I mean it took off under my hand. It started the journey to its next note. Some people's thumbs need a little bit of exercising to make them flexible, and I've got a few suggestions that I'd like to show you. Let me start off with a scale that I'm going to simply play with my thumb and my second finger. Let me demonstrate this first. I'm going to do the same scale of D major, which will mean that my thumb lands on black notes as well, and that's perfectly okay for the purposes of this exercise. Now 1 and 3. And 1 and 4. And so on. And for a large hand, 1 and 5. Notice what I was doing there, or rather notice what I wasn't doing. My elbow was in one place. I did not drop my elbow onto my thumb. Let me show you in the right hand incorrectly. Do you see what I'm doing there? I'm dropping my elbow onto my thumb, which is what we want to avoid. Now, if you feel that doing a scale with that rather strange fingering, rather unorthodox fingering, is going to confuse you, then you could use a Hanon exercise, or indeed any pattern of notes that you like. Let me take a Hanon pattern, the first one in the book, and I'm going to play, instead of doing it in C major, I'm going to do it in D major, and I'm going to refinger it 1, 2, 1, 2, and then I'm going to do it without stopping 1, 3, 1, 3. Let me just show you a little bit of it. And you'll notice that in order to accommodate my thumb on the black keys, I'm making full use of the length of the key, rather than jerky positions here. I'm sliding in and I'm sliding out. Now, that's an example, or several examples of thumb under, which is what we need for a scale. I'd like to show you thumb over. So let me just show you what I mean, because I can imagine that some of you will be scratching your heads thinking, what on earth is he talking about, thumb over? Again, let me show you in the left hand. No, I won't. I'll play something hands together, the beginning of the Ocean Etude of Chopin, and I'm going to do it in slow motion, and I think you'll see, if you look at my thumbs, that they are not moving under my hand, rather my hand is rotating, my elbow, my forearm is rotating. Let me just show you first. Now let me do that in slow motion so I can show you what I mean. When I'm ready to leave that key, I swing my arm up and bring my thumb into position. Now, of course, at speed, the movements are very small. But that's a very, very different feeling from trying to bring my thumb under. Now, let me give you an example from the famous G minor scale at the end of Chopin's first ballade. I'm going to do it again slowly, just for the purposes of the demonstration. When I want to make my crescendo at the top, I will move from a thumb under attitude, which I'll use at the beginning, to a thumb over attitude. Let me just show you the last octave of that. Do you see how instead of putting my thumb under my hand, I'm lifting it up and dropping it in with a rotary movement of the forearm? That gives you a lot of strength, and it's completely tension-free. Feels wonderful. I want to go back a little bit to the arpeggios and the importance of the wrist. I haven't yet spoken about the wrist in scale and arpeggio playing, and it is absolutely vital that we allow two components of our arm to be free and flexible, and that is the wrist, and the second is the forearm. This movement, I must enable it. I'm going to give you a little exercise that I find very useful for teaching arpeggios. I'm not sure which hand to use. Let me show you the left hand first of all, and then I'll show you in the right. Now, if you watch what happens here, I'm taking... Now let me take the part of that arpeggio where the thumb is central. So that's second, thumb, fourth. If I hold my thumb down and I play the note either side of that with the correct fingering, be very careful here that you use the fingering you're going to use in the final arpeggio, 2, 4. Notice that my elbow remains still, and all of the adjustments are happening here and here. Let me show you now with the thumb played. See, I'm making the adjustments in the wrist and in the forearm rather than in the elbow. If I were to make the adjustments in the elbow, this is what you get. And that's the problem with arpeggio playing. That's the first mistake people make with arpeggios. Now, let's look a little bit at a real piece of music, the Liszt Valse Oubliée that we have in the magazine. Again, I'm going to do it rather slowly because I want to show you how I would suggest applying that exercise to the left hand. And so on. Now let me take that arpeggio pattern. Now there's my thumb, and there's the note either side of the thumb. What I'm doing is holding down my thumb first, playing very freely. The movement here feels extremely loose and extremely free. That's very necessary. And when I've got comfortable with that, then I play my thumb. Aware here that I'm using a rotary movement. What I can do thereafter is to add perhaps a note on the top. Do you see where my adjustments are happening? Let me do that again rather slow. I might want to add a note beneath. But I think you'll notice there when I play my C sharp that my rotation is toward the left. We can use those loops in our scales as well. Let me just finish. I'm going to finish right now, but I'd just like to show you how we can use that in a scale. And let me take a scale, let's change the recorder somewhat here. There's the loop. That is the same idea as the arpeggio. It's less difficult in the scale. It becomes harder in the arpeggio because of the distances, and that's even more reason for us to keep very loose and very flexible. So I hope these suggestions will help you with your scales and arpeggios in your practicing, and I look forward to seeing you again for the next issue.